Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Um, my name is Rose DiNardo. I am the Assistant Director in the e-learning division. And today we are going to talk about part 3 of our Building an Online Class series, and that includes assignments and discussion boards. Now, if you have been following along with us, you have already planned out your class in part 1 and created your syllabus and modules. In part 2, you have already created your materials and loaded them into the files and pages. So here we are, part 3, where we are going to do assignments and discussions. For those of you who need clarification, assignments are strictly between you and the student. It's as if they were handing something directly to you in class. It's not a public area. Discussion boards are public areas where not only can you see the information that's posted by students, but everyone in the class can see as well, whatever you or the students post. And that's what we are going to go over today. So let's go ahead and get started. I am already in a template class. And as you can see, I have my tabs to the left hand of my screen. And what we are going to do is we are going to start with assignments. So here I'm going to click on the assignment tab. And then let me move my GoToWebinar board out of the way here. And then at the top right here, you see a blue box, and that blue box says plus assignment. And we click on that so that we can create a new assignment. Now, at any time that you've created an assignment, before, of course, students start working in it, you can go ahead and edit that assignment. These 3 dots next to the existing assignments that I have here um, are called kebabs or edit kebabs by Canvas. So at any time I could actually click on that and click edit and edit an existing assignment. But today I'm going to start a new assignment to show you how to do that. So I'm going to click on the blue plus assignment button, and I'm going to name my assignment. So I usually like to name it whatever the topic is. So maybe today the students are doing an essay on World War II. Okay. And then after that, in the description box here, I want to type in the description of what I want the students to do. So I want to let them know how they're going to submit it. Do I want them to submit it as an attachment, or do I want them to type directly into the text box? What are my requirements? So the more specific you are with the assignment, the better it is for the students and for you, because then the students know exactly what it is that you want them to do. So we're just going to say type description here. You also have your rich editor content box or controls up here. So if you wanted to, you can make something bold, you can underline, you can change colors, all of that kind of stuff. If you wanted to, you can add in a video if it's relevant to what you were doing. So you have all of your controls up here that let you do that. You could put in an image, you can put in a link to a URL, whatever it is that you need to do to convey the proper assignment instructions to the students. Then you want to give it a point value. I'm just going to go with a standard 100. But some people do 0 to 100, other people have point values. However you want to grade this and have it show up in the grade book is what you want to put in for the point value. Now, assignment groups, when you create your modules, you created assignment groups. So I'm going to put this under assignments, but if I was creating a quiz, which you'll learn about on Thursday with Ginny, I might put this under the category of a test. The reason what this assignment group is, it's really a grade book category. So however you want it to show up in the grade book is the assignment group that you put it in. And these groups, again, are created by you. So if you have a homework group or a participation group, and this assignment falls under one of those areas, you would choose that particular group. How do you want the grades to display to the student when you grade it? So you could do percentages. You have the option to do complete or incomplete. You could do a point value. You could do a letter grade, a GPA scale, or if this is not going to be graded, you can choose not graded. Now, of course, when I chose not graded, you notice that a lot of my other options have disappeared. So I'm going to do points for this so that I get those options back. Now, if you wanted to grade it, say I wanted to grade this, but I didn't want it to count towards the final grade, maybe this particular essay is going to be a draft, the first draft that I want the students to do. So I want to give them an idea of how I would grade it, but I don't want it to count towards the final grade. I could check this box right here that says, do not count this assignment towards the final grade. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to tell my students how to submit it, and I want to tell Canvas what is going to be acceptable. So obviously this is for an online class, so I'm going to leave it as online. But if you were, say, doing a hybrid course, you could choose on paper, and the students could submit it to you on paper in class, and you could still assign it to the students within Canvas. Now, how do you want to accept this work? Do you want them to do a text entry, which means they could either type or copy and paste directly into the text box? Do you want them to submit a website or URL? Does it have to be a media recording, or can they upload a file? So in this case, because it's an essay, I'm going to choose file upload. I personally feel that whenever it's a longer assignment, something more than a couple paragraphs, a file upload is the best option, because sometimes the text box could make things a little quirky, move things around a little bit. And this is particularly important when you're doing something like when I teach my students how to do outlines, the format is important. So I want to make sure that when they submit it, it stays in the proper format. And sometimes with the text entry box, that does not happen. So I would choose file upload. The other thing that you can do, which is very helpful for instructors, is to restrict the types of files that you will accept. So here, I'm only going to accept Word files. So I would put that in just like that. So I have DOC comma space and then DOCX. So those are the extensions to the files that I will accept. So if a student tries to submit anything other than a Word document, it's not going to accept it. How many attempts are you going to allow the students to submit? So I could give them unlimited. Maybe I'm going to allow more than one revision of this essay. Or I could limit the number of attempts and I can choose how many. So maybe for this one, I'm going to do 3. I'm going to allow the student to do 2 first draft and a second draft, and then the final draft. So I'm going to put in 3 attempts for this particular assignment. This is a really nice feature here, this submission attempts section, because previously students could, as long as the assignment was open, they could continuously resubmit assignments, regardless of what type of assignment it was. So now you can actually limit that so that you can only accept 1 if you wanted to, which is what most teachers do. Are you going to use the plagiarism software? So if you are, you would choose Unicheck, and then you would let the system know when you want the students to see the report from Unicheck. So usually I let them see it immediately. It's no big deal if they see the similarity report. What happens with the plagiarism review is when a student submits their work, before they can actually click the submit button, there's a little box that they have to check. And that box asks them to verify that their work is an original work. Once they click that box, then they can submit the assignment. Once they submit the assignment, it goes through Unicheck. And when you go to grade, there will be a little symbol for Unicheck in the grade book so that you can click on that and you can see the similarity report to see how much of that particular work was similar to other works in the Unicheck database. And that will be something that we'll go over when we do the grade book in the, I believe that is in the part 6 of the Building an Online Class series. Is this a group assignment? So you can make things group assignments. If you do a group assignment, you have a few options. You can either manually put everybody into the groups the way you want them to be. You can let the system put them in groups, or you can let the students choose their own groups. You can do peer reviews. So if you do a peer review, you can, again, manually partner people up, or you can let the system do it. And it can be anonymous. That way students don't feel hindered to give feedback to someone. So it can be an anonymous process. After that, you have to assign this work. So one thing that gets a chuckle out of everyone when we're doing the training is it says assign to everyone. And people always say, well, wouldn't I want to assign this to everyone? It is a class assignment. And the reason why it says everyone is because the first time around, yes, I want to assign this to everyone. But perhaps I have a student who has taken ill or had some kind of issue, extenuating circumstances that has prevented them from turning in the assignment. And then I have to extend the assignment just for that student. So instead of being for everyone, now I have to give an extra student, a different student, a different amount of time. So what you would do in that case is everyone would have their original due date. So let's put in some dates here by clicking on the calendar. So I'm going to say this is due on the 7th. I'm going to make it available today. All right, so I'm going to give them to the 7th to do it, but then I'm going to click add, and I'm going to give James Casey here a different time frame. So I'm going to make his available from today, but since James is having issues, his is going to be available till the 14th. That will be his new due date. Now notice that I did not click the X and take out everyone and put James's name in there. This is a common mistake that people make when they go to put in a date for one student. They take out everyone else, and they then what happens is it removes everyone's work. It removes everyone's work and it removes their grades from the grade book. And then, of course, people panic because they don't know what happened. So we can retrieve that by putting this information back in. However, it's best to just leave it to begin with and click that add button. And then again, if I had another student who had a circumstance, I could click the add button again and give that student another time frame as well. Then I have the option, excuse me, I have the option to save or save and publish. So this is how I remember which one is which. The plain old save, I equate to saving it as a draft. I've worked on it, but it's not quite ready. I don't want anybody to see it yet. I don't want students to work from it yet. So that's where I would just click the regular save button. If I'm ready to go and I want it to be live for students, I would click the save and publish button. If I don't want this assignment at all, I decided to trash it, I would click cancel and it won't save it at all. In this case, I'm going to click save and publish. Oh, Unlock date cannot be after due date. Let's see. I'm not sure why that did that. Oh, I put in the wrong due date. That's why. There we go. All right. So here is my assignment. Here's the name, the description. Here's the basics of the information that I put in, which is the points and how students can submit it and how many attempts. If I wanted to, I could go back in and I can edit it, but otherwise it's good to go. Now, when you go over the grade book, you'll see here, you'll go over the speed grader, and Ginny will show you how to grade your work, whether it's submitted as a file or submitted as a text. So after I create my assignment, I want to put it in my module so that students can see it. So just as a reminder of how to put things in modules, I'm going to go to module 1 here. And I am going to click on the plus sign at the right side of the module name. And it's already at assignments. So if I want to add an assignment, I can leave it right here. But if I wanted to add something else, I could use the drop-down box and I could find my quizzes, my files, and so on. So let's see, I want to find my assignment. So I had named it World War II essay. And let's see, why is it not here? Let me make sure that that's saved. Okay, so here my essay did save. Why is it not showing up in my modules? Let me go back. That is very strange. I'm going to have to check into that. Did it automatically put itself in here? No. I'm going to have to check into that. I do apologize for that glitch. Generally, what would happen is I would click on that. I would say that I wanted to add an assignment. And then I would click on the name of the assignment and click add item. And there it would appear. But for some reason, my new item that I created, my new assignment, is not appearing in the module. So I will have to look into that and see why that is, because everything else looks good. Okay. So if you have any questions on assignments, you can type them into the question box. And then what we're going to do is we're going to discuss discussion boards, or some people like to refer to them as forums. So if you have any questions, and I will take questions also at the end if you think of something, but right now I'm looking through the chat area to see if there's any questions, and so far I don't see anything. But again, if you come up with something, please go ahead and put it in at any time. Now, again, discussions are public areas for students to have conversations with you and with one another. So I'm going to click on discussions. And you'll see that we already have 2 discussions created. So the first discussion is a virtual cafe, and we always encourage our faculty to have some type of virtual cafe in their discussion section. And usually you would put that in your very first module, which would be an orientation session type module for the first week. This virtual cafe is available throughout the semester. So you would keep it open from the first day of the semester to the last day of the semester. You would encourage students to ask questions there that pertain to the class, not any personal information that they need to discuss with you privately. So maybe they need clarification on an assignment and they want to post it there. What happens is instead of you having to respond to 10 emails to 10 different students, you could just respond to that one email, or I'm sorry, that one discussion post, and then it would show up, the answer would show up just for those students, or so that the entire class would see. So then you don't have to worry about responding to so many emails. So the virtual cafe is really nice. It also gives a chance for the students to have side conversations. For example, if they wanted to form a study group, which they can also do virtually, which we'll discuss in week 5 when we do conferences. So there's a lot of benefits to having a virtual cafe. Now let's talk about creating a discussion board. The first thing that we want to do is go to this little edit cog right here. This is very important to do because this very first setting where it says create discussion topics, this is usually checked off automatically. And what happens is it allows students to create their own separate discussion boards. And then instead of replying to your discussion board, they've now created a separate board. And this, I will tell you, will wreak havoc on your grading. So you want to make sure that you go into that edit cog, and I'll do that again. It's up at the top right by the discussion button. You click on that, and you want to make sure where it says student settings, you want to uncheck create discussion topics because you do not want to allow students to create topics. Now it's up to you whether or not you want them to edit and delete their own posts. I usually don't allow this because what happens is if I'm grading the discussion board, students can then edit their post after they see what other students have written, and then therefore you're not getting their original work to grade. So that is up to you whether or not you want them to be able to edit and delete, and whether or not you want them to be able to attach files. All right, we're going to click on the blue plus discussion button. And what you're going to see is that Canvas is very consistent in its design. So even though we are working on the discussion board, you're going to see a lot of the same features that you saw in the assignment. So I'm not going to go over them in detail. So the first thing you want to do, just like we did with our assignment, is you want to name the discussion board. So it's instead of just naming it discussion 1 or discussion 2, you might want to name it based on the topic. So we did an essay on World War II. So let's do a discussion board on World War II as well. In the text box, just like you did with the assignment, you want to put in a description. What are your expectations for this discussion board? So everybody has a different way that they do discussion boards. Some people will give the students a grade just for participating. It would be as if they raised their hand in class and got a check mark in the book for participation. Other people are on the other side of the spectrum, and they will look more closely at the content, at the length of the content that was provided. Did they provide citations and things like that? So they're the two extremes in how to grade your discussion. So you want to let your students know where you lie on that spectrum. So some teachers might say that they have a paragraph requirement or a word requirement. Some teachers just want to know that they understand the lesson and what the topic is. So you want to convey that information. Also, you want to let students know how many classmates that they have to reply to in order to get credit for this post. So generally it's anywhere between 1 to 3 is the standard. Next, if I scroll down, you can actually attach a file to this. So maybe you wanted the students to read an article about World War II or watch a brief video about it that you want them to discuss in this post. You can attach that file right here. As far as options go, the first two I feel are always very important to check off. The first one says allow threaded replies. That's basically just for design purposes. It makes it easier to see um, who replied to you and then who replied to those classmates. So it's basically how it shows up in the discussion board. So I would always check that first option. The second option I think is important to check myself, and I always do this, except for the virtual cafe, of course. Users must post before seeing replies. So what that means is if we were all in a class together, I would not be able to see any of your posts until I posted my own original reply to the teacher. So what happens is as soon as I submit, everything opens up and I can now see everybody else's posts, and then I can start replying to those other posts. So I always think that this is a good option because you get original work from your students. They don't wait until the last minute because it doesn't matter how long they wait, they're not going to see anyone else's work until they post. I do want to grade this, so I'm going to click on grading. What happens when I click on grading, you see all of those grading options that I had previously in assignments appear. So I could put a point value to this. I personally like to just value mine at 20 points. I do 10 points for the initial post and 10 points for the replies. That's what I do. I don't want to get into grading out of 100, so I usually do 20. There is no right or wrong. It's whatever your preference is. I'm going to keep this at points, but for my assignment group, I want to change that. I want to add a new group that says discussions. So now in my grade book, I have just made a category for discussion boards. And so any discussion board that I create, I can choose discussions as my assignment group, and that's how it will show up in my grade book. Again, you can do peer reviews in the discussion board. Doing peer reviews in the discussion board is something that I haven't really heard people use. I guess if you were having them work together on a peer-to-peer, critiquing of an essay, I guess you could do that too here in the discussion board, but usually people use the assignment section when they're doing peer reviews. Again, you can assign it to your students. You can say, I'm going to have this available from December 1st through, I'm going to do the 6th, and then I'm going to close it on the 6th as well. So what happens is when I'm closing it, when I give it a due date and an until date, after those dates, it makes it read only. So students can still go in there and see the conversation and see what you wrote and see what other people have written, but they cannot contribute any further. Now, again, if you had a student that had special circumstances and you want to give them a chance to go back and do the discussion, you can click the add button and add them. It's very rare that teachers allow that just because the discussion is supposed to be an active area, and once everybody else has moved on, there's no conversation usually going on in an old board. So not all teachers will allow that in the discussion, but again, that's up to you and your individual policies. Again, I have the option to save or save and publish or cancel. So in this case, I'm going to save and publish. And there we go. And then what happens is when students want to reply, they'll see this right here, just as this is. They'll see what I have written or what you have written in this top box. And then they would click the reply button and type their reply. And those replies would show down below here. And then what happens is there'll be a little dot next to them that will show in green if it's a new and they haven't read it yet. The students also have an option to subscribe to this post, or this discussion board. So if they click subscribe, it's going to let them know that they have new posts that they have to read. So this is something that's automatic, so students don't have to turn that on. And that is discussion boards. Now, what I do want to say, because I don't know if it's going to be covered under the grade book, is when you grade a discussion board, it's what I do and what I recommend people do is during the week, read what the students have written, facilitate the discussion board by asking questions or by correcting students if they're posting incorrect information or by adding to what they've posted. What I don't recommend is trying to jot down every day who posted something new to try and keep track of everything, because you're really going to drive yourself crazy if you're going to do that, because especially if you have a class that has 30 students in it, that's a lot of students to try and keep track of. So what I like to do is when I go in to grade, it's going to show me the person's initial post and it's going to show me their replies. So then I'll be able to see when I go to grade what they contributed and how many times they contributed. So I don't have to keep track of that on a notebook separately. So just worry about facilitating the discussion during the week. And then when you grade, it will remind you of what they contributed and how many times. Okay. So that is discussions. And let me see if any questions have come through. Okay, so far no questions have come through. So we're actually, this was a pretty quick presentation, 30 minutes. What usually happens at this point before the next part is you would go off and you would create your assignments and your discussion boards. And generally we give about a week to 2 weeks to do each of those tasks. That's generally how long it would take for somebody to do this, unless you're have a chunk of time and you already have your work set aside that you know what you want to put in here. But generally, if we were working with you one-on-one, that's how much time we would give you to complete those tasks. So again, if you have any questions, you can add them in now. I want to remind you that we still have 3 more parts to our series. Thursday, Ginny is going to do exams, quizzes, and surveys. And then the week after that, we are going to do conferences and gradebook. And then if you have been creating your class with us during this time and you would like us to go over that class and review it and see if we have any suggestions for you, we would be happy to do that. If you want to go through the process together again and work one-on-one, we would be happy to do that. Just send us an email to the distance learning email address. All right, no questions have come through. So I want to thank you for taking this time in your busy afternoon to join me. And if you think of any questions after the presentation is over, please do not hesitate to contact us. We're always happy to help you. Have a great afternoon, everyone.